Okay, time for one pot cooking. Righto, we got fire. The miracle gas bottle still hasn't run out. When it does run out, I'm taking it back to the same place to get it refilled again. So stick your pot on the stove, get a bit of oil in there to get it heating to start things off. I know, you're saying, big heavy cast iron pot, isn't it a bit ridiculous? Well, it's the only pot I've got that's big enough for what I'm doing tonight. All my other pots are tiny little things. And yeah, you'd probably all rather see this cooked on a campfire. Well, I was camped up at Urbanville Forest Park for a week. The solar batteries in my caravan here have had it. As soon as the sun goes down, there's no power at all. Couldn't keep the fridge running, couldn't keep anything cold. I had all these great ambitions of campfire cooking. And I went through 80 kilo of hardwood. But the fireplaces up there, they're not designed for cooking on. They're designed for sitting around and having a couple of beers with your mates of a night. Seriously, 80 kilo of hardwood just burnt to ash without giving me enough coals to cook a bloody sausage. So we're just waiting on the pan to heat up. It's a good solid thing, being used on many campfires. I've made stews in it, I've cooked roasts in it, I've made bread in it, beautiful sourdough breads. We'll see how it goes on the campfire, or the gas stove, shall we say. So it's plenty thick enough, it'll hold the heat, just have to get it hot first. Alright, the pot's getting plenty hot enough, so time to start. Got some onion. There's one large onion, just roughly chopped up. You'd chop it up finely, you would chop it up coarser, doesn't matter. You're not cooking for royalty. In it goes. Last little bit there. You paid for it, use it. Just give that a few seconds in there, or a minute or two, whatever. You just want to get it started, convert the acids to sugars. You don't want to colour it. Just want to cook it till the onion starts going translucent. The official culinary termination for it is sweating. So what we're doing is sweating the onion, cooking it without colouring it. Starting to soften. Some bits starting to go a bit on the translucent side there, and that's going to be enough. There's got to be a lot more cooking. So I got some spud. It's one large spud. I've just washed it off to get the foam off it, cut out the eyes and chopped it up. Chuck it in there, give it a stir around, get them started as well. Now if you've got a house with a garden, with the eyes that you chop out of the potato, Just chuck them outside the kitchen window into the garden. They'll grow and make a pretty attractive plant, and you get a great crop of potatoes next year. But we don't really want to give any colour to the onion or the potato. We just want to start the cooking process, get them softened up a bit. So you've got it all pretty well mixed through at the moment. So we'll chuck in a little bit of Chateau Le Puke. And while we wait for the alcohol to boil out of that, you all know what that means. One for the pan means one for the cook. To Keith. So you don't want to completely evaporate it. Just want to simmer it down a little bit. Just boil out the alcohol a bit. You don't want to have dinner and then drive home drunk because of the alcohol in your chicken dinner. But at the same time, we're camping. We're not cooking for royalty. There's nowhere we need to go. No time to get there in a hurry. So, it doesn't matter too much if it doesn't all boil out, does it? So we've had a few minutes boiling. That's about all we need. We're going to chuck in a tin of tomato. Anything you can get cheap on clearance. These are whole ones. Just break them up a little bit. Got a lot of cooking to go, so it's not really a drama. I'll break up more as they cook. But even so, you end up with some chunky tomato bits in there, all the better. Now the tomatoes in there, going to chuck in a bit of this stuff, just to give it a bit of oomph at the end of the day. Never tried it before. We'll see what it's like. Might give it a bit of consistency by the look of it. That's all right, you don't want a runny stew. So it's just about boiling. Smelling pretty good. Although a bit of an odour of powdered package stuff, but can't complain about that because I put it in there. And once it starts boiling, I've got chicken stock to put in. That's a 500ml thing, but I've got two of them. And I know what you're all thinking. I always say, go for the salt reduced stuff. Well, the local food works doesn't really have the greatest variety. They're there for the basics, and that's what they're for. That's all I can get. So that's what I'm using. Okay, that's simmering along nicely. Smelling great too. It's time for the stock. There's 500 ml. Yep, 500. There's the other 500. And at the same time we'll chuck in some mushrooms. Just remove the stalks, chopped them into about 9 pieces each. In they go. And now it is just waiting time. So we want all of that to boil down. Not so much boil down, we want it to come to the boil. We do want it to simmer down and reduce. The potato will help to thicken it all up. And then we chuck in the chicken, check the seasoning, add a bit of salt and pepper if necessary, which it will be because we haven't put any in there yet. And then gently simmer the chicken. But at the moment, nothing we can do until that's come back to the boil and simmered down a little bit. And just to hurry it along to the boil, we'll stick a lid on it. The lid can come off once it's boiled. So a bit of steam starting to come out, must be boiling. Take the lid off. You won't need that again. Now that has to boil down for quite some time. We need to reduce it down so that the chili powder mix will do its job and thicken it up. The potatoes will help and thicken it up. But we can't do anything else yet for a while until it simmers down. If you've got the lid on it, it's not going to simmer down. Leave the lid off it. So although I said simmer it down, you really want to boil it down this much liquid. It will take a while. Every now and then, give it a gentle stir around. Just make sure nothing's sticking to the bottom. Okay, that's been bubbling away for about 30 minutes. Stirring regularly just so that the bits of potato don't stick to the bottom. Giving a nice glaze on the spoon. So it's simmered down enough. It's time to add the chicken. So the chicken is thigh fillets. I like the thigh fillets, they're good. I've just cut each one into 4, so they're pretty chunky. But I like it when my meat is chunky. And in goes the chicken. Bit of a mess there to clean up. Give me something to do tomorrow, New Year's Eve. Give it a stir through. And we just want to boil it now or simmer it, whatever you want. If you're at home cooking in a normal pot on a normal stove, you'd want to be simmering it. On this thing, Just going to leave the gas going. It'll boil. The chicken will cook. It'll be delightful. So you might have noticed that up until now we haven't put in any seasoning. No salt or pepper. So I'm going to put in a bit. Put a little bit of salt. Not too much, because the stock that went in was not salt reduced. So it's probably a bit salty already, but potato does absorb salt. And all that chicken is going to take some salt up as well. I'll probably need to put more in later, but better to put it in later rather than too much at once. And pepper, ground white pepper. I'll be a bit more liberal with that. There's no pepper in that stock. And I like pepper. So now it's just a case of waiting for the chook to cook, having a final taste, any seasoning adjustments if necessary, and sitting it down and shoving it down your throat. Gently stir it around time to time. You don't want anything sticking to the bottom. Shouldn't be anything sticking to the bottom anyway. A well prepared pot, cast iron or frying pan. When you get them, you prepare them properly. You never have to worry about anything sticking. Brand new. Stick them on a hot plate, hot as you can get them. Put in salt, a lot of salt, this thick. Keep stirring it around, making the salt hot, hot, hot. What you're doing there is removing any impurities from the casting process. When it's nice and hot, the salt's smoking, chuck it out. You then give your pan a bit of a wipe out, get rid of all any salt lying around in it. Coat it with oil, plenty of oil, all around the sides, on the bottom. Then stick it in the oven, as hot as you can get the oven, say 220 degrees, and leave it there for an hour. That'll cook the oil into the pan. After that, let it cool down, wipe out the excess oil. You'll never have a problem with the pan rusting or sticking. My frying pan, I've had it for 30 years. It's been in campfires, I've made cakes in it. Nothing sticks, never rusts. A camp oven that I'm currently cooking this chicken stew in, gave it the same treatment. I've had it for 10 years, never had a problem there with anything sticking or rusting. Prepare your pan or your pot, you got no problem ever. So the chicken's had about 10 minutes of bubbling away. Time for the final taste test. See if it needs any seasoning adjustment. I'm going to say that's pretty bloody good. The amount of salt in it is nice. Doesn't need any more. So much salt in that chicken stock. Pepper. There's plenty there. More than enough. Doesn't need any more. It's ready to go. So, time to turn it off. Grab a ladle full into the blue bowl of destiny. They get hot, these bowls. Stick a lid on it so no bug skin in it while you're inside eating. And now let's go inside and see how it is. As they say, proof of the pudding is in the eating. Nice big fat chunk of chicken meat. Plenty of sauce around it. It's delicious. Straight off the stove, so yeah, it's very hot. Add a bit of onion and potato to it. It takes a bit of preparing, but it's worth it in the end. And you can see the mushrooms cooked down to almost nothing. But that's how I like the mushroom. The flavour's gone all through the sauce. Got a bit of chicken sinew stuck between my teeth then. Very tasty. You'll love it. Be easy to cook on your stove at home. Sort of somewhere between a stew and a soup, I guess you'd call it. I'll call it one pot chicken. Anyway, you get the drift, you get the meaning. I won't keep you any longer. Give it a go. Little bit of time to do it, but it is good. Catch you later.